I'm a D girl, so I'm determined.
Ready, set, better yet. Got this bitch rocking like we never left.
Hey guys, welcome back. So if you're here, you obviously saw the title, so you know what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the time that I was sexually harassed on my study abroad. But before I get started, I want to shout out to Aaliyah J for this It Girl hoodie. This is like the most comfortable hoodie that I owned. I do my best to support like the people that I watch like on YouTube, or you know, just the people with brands in general. And this by far is like the best quality like clothing that I've bought from anybody. This hoodie is like, it's not hot, but it's warm, but it's not like too, I don't know how to describe it. It's just like really good material, and I love this color. I'm going through a neon phase right now. And I also want to shout out Queen Naja and Beauty Bakery for this lip duo, this matte like nude pinkish lipstick, and then this gloss. And it's the combo I have on right now. And I'm a nude person. Like, I have a bunch of other lipsticks that I don't wear. I just always stick to nude and gloss. And it's funny because Aaliyah J basically does the same thing. And she's actually the first person I started watching on YouTube. So I just want to shout out to those two people. So let's get started with this story time. So I had to pour myself a glass of my favorite, my Livingston Sangria. Because this is kind of crazy. So it started, let's go back to college. So I attended Grand Valley State University in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It is a PWI, and if you don't know what that means, that stands for predominantly white institution, meaning it's predominantly white people in a predominantly white town. And clearly I am black. I went there around 2011, and I didn't do my study abroad until I want to say 2015. Like the summer of 2015 is when I did my study abroad. It was around the time where those girls from Nigeria went missing. Like, it was like, I want to say like maybe somewhere between like 3 and 5 months after that situation had happened. So my major in college was international relations, and my minor was African American studies. And my study abroad was to Ghana, Africa, which is off the west coast of Africa, the Gold Coast. So essentially what the program was, it was 2 classes. I was a senior at this point. I changed my major like 3 times. I was a senior at this point, and I always wanted to study abroad. But initially when I thought about study abroad, I thought like Italy, France. And it wasn't until I got to college and got a little older and started learning more about like the place where my people come from, and I definitely changed that. Like, that was where I wanted my first like out of the country that's not an island experience to be. So what the program was, it was 2 classes. So I took a class where I learned about the dynamics of slavery before crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and then the second class or part of the program was me and my other classmates going to a school in a local town and teaching anywhere between like elementary and high school kids, I want to say, or middle school kids. We taught them about what happened after the slaves crossed the Atlantic. So it was really just like to bridge the gap, because in the United States we're not really taught about what happens prior to, and they're not taught about what happens after crossing the Atlantic, which I feel like is one of the biggest reasons for the divide among between the diaspora, between like the West Indian, Caribbean, Africans, African Americans, and those still on the continent. I just feel like not enough of us are educated on what the others went through, so there's kind of some type of divide there. So the purpose of the program was to bridge the gap. So the way the program worked is we had like a few classes before we actually left, where the point was for us to all to get to know each other. I'm gonna say this. My biggest piece of advice, if you're gonna go out of the country, or if you're just going to, like, whether it be study abroad or you're just gonna go out of the country, who you travel with makes or breaks your experience. And it's just that simple. Do not go anywhere with people that you don't have anything in common with. Unfortunately, I couldn't control that. It was a group of maybe 10 or 12 of us, and I was the only African American. There was another girl in the group. Her name was Rumbi. She was actually African. Her family was originally from Zimbabwe. I love her. I had no, like, we understood each other to a certain extent, but there's still not, it still wasn't the same experience for us because she's 100% African and I'm African American. So our experiences still weren't the same. And everybody else in the group was white. We had two professors. One was a white lady and the other was a lady who was Jamaican Canadian. And that was it. We got there. The plane ride, the commute there was a long one. We were originally supposed to we flew from Chicago. We flew from Michigan to Chicago to Germany, and we were supposed to fly Germany straight to Ghana, but we missed our flight because there was a delay when we were leaving because of weather. So we had to fly from Germany to Ethiopia, then Ethiopia to Ghana. So it took us like, I want to say like 30 something hours to get there. And then, excuse me, when we got there, we didn't stay in the capital. We were on the coast, so we had to drive. It was just a different experience, like going through the airport in different countries. Like we're used to going on a little tarmac thing to the plane, and in some countries, like you literally walk outside and go up the steps on the plane. It's like not pulled up to the building. It was really cool to go through airports in different countries. Prior to leaving, we had dress codes. We had to get immunizations. We had to get a shot for malaria. We had to take medicine every day, get a prescription and take medicine every day for malaria while we were there, because our bodies are not immune or used to the environment over there. All of the immunizations that are needed, we had to be up to date, and if you hadn't got them, you had to get them in order to get your visa to even be allowed in the country. We had to have international insurance, and that was required in order to get our visa. I don't even think it was our program, but we had to have international insurance, like health insurance in case anything happened. So this was not the first time that program, though our professors had took students there for that program. So they had connections in the city already with the local college campus from where we were staying. And there was this group of students, they were like a local like dance troupe, if you will. There were like 2 or 3 females, and the rest were men. They did the drums, and the ladies taught dance. So we had the opportunity to take dance lessons or drumming lessons. I did dance lessons for I want to say like maybe a week while we were there, but I ended up stopping because we still had like a lot of work to do, and that, like I said, it wasn't my senior year, so I wasn't for any like games. I wanted to make sure that I got A's in my courses and focused on the actual work. I will say it was a culture shock. It was a big culture shock as far as like how advanced it was. It's not like a super third world country like media makes it seem, but it's still not as technologically advanced as the United States. So we had our own individual like Wi-Fi plans. We had to go to like the local wireless provider and like buy these packages like for our laptops and stuff to be able to have Wi-Fi to get our work done. And there were like frequent blackouts, or where like when all the power would go out and it would come back on. Ooh, I love this. But so okay, keep in mind, I told you everybody pretty much in my group was white. We had met each other prior to coming, but I had nothing in common with these people. I'm just gonna be like honest about it. I'm from Detroit, like the east side of Detroit. I'm not gonna say I haven't been around white people. I don't know how to like act around, but I just didn't have anything in common with these people. Like they all came from like pretty much privileged homes and areas or whatever. I had nothing in common with them. I mean, they weren't bad people or anything. I just didn't have anything in common with them. Like, so a couple, pretty much everybody kind of like, they were like booed up. So one of the guys in our group was dating one of the girls from like the dance troupe. And then I want to say two of the girls were like dating two of the guys from like the drumming group or whatever. I feel like whatever group came like with our university, like they found people to like hook up with from like our school. And not to say that they were like gold diggers. I don't want to paint them in a bad light, but at the end of the day, like the currency was 3-to-1. So their currency was called CD. And obviously ours is $1, so $1 was like equivalent to like 3 CD. So, and the part of the country that we were in was not like a suburb or anything. Like these people like had needs and whatnot as well. So I feel like they kind of like leached themselves like to whatever students like came with whatever group, whatever year. But nonetheless, there were like people from our group dating people from like the dance and the drumming group. Like when I say dating, I mean like this one boy like fell completely in love with this one girl. Like they got caught by the Ghanaian police having sex on the beach, and he had to like pay the police off so he didn't go to jail. And this was like our last night there. Like he got caught, and had to like bribe the police to not take his ass to jail. But nonetheless, so I say that to say they were very comfortable. Now keep in mind, I told you guys that this was like less than a year after the girls in Nigeria went missing. Now, though Ghana and Nigeria are two different places, it's still the same region of the continent. And just me, even back at home, I wasn't the type of person to like go out and party or just like be around people that I wasn't, or put myself in potentially dangerous situations. Everybody from our group was like, there was like a local like little bar restaurant. They were going out at night, like they were getting drunk, like just hanging out with the locals. Not that it's anything hanging out with the locals, but at the end of the day, we're in a foreign country. Like I just wasn't comfortable doing that. I didn't even go out like drinking around people that I didn't know like back at home, so I definitely wasn't gonna do it in a foreign country. Like, and the thing about me is like I don't like babysitting a bunch of drunk people, and I don't like being drunk and with people who I know don't have my back. Like that's just not something. I just was not raised like that. Like that shit is for the birds. I'm not. Listen, this isn't Taken. Taken is not real life. Had my black ass got kidnapped over there, my daddy was not coming to get me, okay? Like that shit was dead. I was not about to be getting drunk on the coast of West Africa. That just wasn't gonna happen. So I stayed in my room. Like I went out during the day and I mingled and all of that, and it actually affected my grade. But at nighttime I was in my room. Like I just wasn't for the bullshit. But my classmates were. And that really that made me uncomfortable. That made me very uncomfortable. Like I just didn't understand how they were just putting themselves in potentially dangerous situations. At the end of the day, we're American. Like I may be African American and my other classmates may have been African, but at the end of the day, they know we're coming from America. And when they saw us, like I was told straight up, like they automatically assume all of Americans have money. Because they know even it's more what I may be poor, but it's more than what they had there, So I wasn't about to make myself a target. And the reason I say that is because I specifically got a lot of uncomfortable attention while I was there. I'm not like a stick figure. Like I am a curvy person. Like I have hips, I have butt, I have boobs, like all of that. the men there, I'll say, they're very aggressive. So, and not to say that men, first of all, men everywhere to me are aggressive, but, and not to say like the cat calling that happens here, obviously, but it was just different there. They were just a little more aggressive than what like I'm used to, and it made me like very uncomfortable. So I wasn't comfortable with going out at night and drinking and just being out, because like we're not the same. Like our experience isn't the same. Like you don't have anything to worry about. We didn't have the same issues. We didn't have the same worries. Like I'm cautious about that stuff even here in America, but definitely over there. And the attention that I was getting, like, it wasn't your normal catcalling. It was like somebody just walking up, like grabbing your hand or putting their hand around my waist. And I'm not that person. Like, don't touch me. It just made me very uncomfortable and very uneasy. So the sexual harassment happened actually on a school's campus. So I told you guys that part of the program was us going to the schools to teach the students. So I had a middle school class. So by the time I got out of my class and I made it to the school where I had to teach, the students were on their lunch. So I had to sit in the teacher's lounge with the other teachers and talk to them until it was time for me to go teach. So one day I get to my school a little early. So I'm sitting out there waiting, for the students' lunch hour to be over. And I'm sitting with the other teachers. And there were no men teachers at the school that I was at, or with the grade in the middle school. They were all men. So we're sitting there, we're talking, and obviously, they're asking me questions about America or whatever. And they told me pretty much their perception of us as Americans is from what they see on the news or reality TV. Like, other than that, that was really what they had to go on to base their judgments on, or their preconceived notions on about Americans. So the guy says, I kid you guys not. The guy says to me, so American girls, they like to fuck, right? I'm like, I was so taken aback. Now, granted, we got some creeps up in this US of A. But I feel like there's a certain level of, like, in the workplace, there's a certain line people know not to cross. That he, like Michael Phelps, dived over that line, okay? I was lost for words. I'm like, huh? He's like, you guys like to fuck, right? He's like that's what they show on the TV. Like, they, like, the girls just like to fuck. Like, they're wild. And I'm like, I didn't know how to answer that. Like, I was like, I mean, they're just like girls everywhere else. Like, he was like, but they sleep with everybody. I'm like, I can't say. I'm like, American girls are just like girls from everywhere else. And he's like, no, like, here girls aren't gonna do that. Like, you do that, you could be killed or whatever. And I was just like, okay. Like, I didn't know how to take that. Like, from my experience, Ghana was not like a very conservative country. I mean, it was conservative, but not like super conservative. Like, it was a Christian. The main religion outside of the traditional religions was Christianity. I'll say that. So it wasn't like, it was like a predominantly Muslim culturally based place where they're like a little more strict on women. So I didn't think like that was the case there, but that's what the guy told me. So that was the first time. So I was like completely taken aback. Like, so then another teacher comes in, and like they're talking to me, asking me about my life, my family or whatever. And he's like, oh, you're beautiful, like grabbing on my hand, put his arm around my waist. And he's like, you gotta, like, basically, like, you got a man? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I gotta be. So at the time I had a ring that I got from the islands, and I kept the ring on, and I put it on my ring finger. So obviously, like, for what most women do to deter men. So I had a ring. So he's like, you got a man? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I got a fiance. Like, and he's like, oh, you beautiful, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you don't got no, he's like, you don't got no sibling, no sisters, no nothing. I'm like, no, my sister too young. He like, how old is she? How old is she? I think at the time my sister was like, I'm gonna say like 12, 11 or 12. I'm like, no, I'm like, I only got a little sister. I'm like, my sister is only 11 or 12. I forgot which age she was. He like, that's cool. He like, that's all right. I was completely done for. Like, I have never in my life been in such an awkward position. Like, I didn't know how to react. And it was like, I never thought that I would be in that position. And at the time, I didn't realize that I was being sexually harassed. It took me like a couple years later to figure out, or to like connect the dots, that shit was sexual harassment. Like the putting the hand, like, it took a long time. Like, I had to like dissect like everything that happened. Like, the fact that I was in another country, like, come to terms with or trying to figure out whether that was just how they were culturally, or if it was really inappropriate, or if I was just tripping because where I come from, like, that's not appropriate. But nonetheless, I did take it back to my professor, and I told her, like, my black professor, I went to her specifically because she was like a curvy woman too. So I felt like she would relate a little more, like, as far as the attention goes. But she was older, so I feel like maybe the men didn't like try her like they tried me. Obviously, I was young. I was like, what, 22 at the time? I was like 22. So I don't know, maybe they tried me a little more than they tried her. But I took the situation to her, and I had a conversation with her about it. And honestly, her response was trash as fuck. And it was just like essentially nothing. Like, it really wasn't shit you could do about it, you know? Like, there was no solution to come from the conversation. But I took that to her, and I made it very clear, like, this is why I'm not comfortable. Like, because they said something to me before, like, you know, they were a little worried that I wasn't, you know, making an effort to interact with people. And I told them straight up, I interact as much as I'm comfortable with, but you cannot force me to put myself in a situation that I'm not comfortable in. Like, I will go out during the daytime and interact with people and do whatever, but when the sun comes down, I'm not comfortable with doing that. Like, I'm just not. Like, I'm getting a certain amount of attention that I do not like. Like, I'm not used to it. It's not comfortable to me. I'm in a foreign country. I can't just get up and go home. I can't just call somebody to come pick me up. Like, shit don't work like that. Meanwhile, you got all my classmates over here, and they just out here fucking on the beach. Like nobody's business. Like, when I tell y'all, they was literally like, the people from the dance trip and the drum, they was literally just like fucking these people. Like, they were in whole ass relationships. We were there for 4 weeks. These people were in whole ass relationships. Like, at that point, like, after that situation happened, I kid you not, I was ready to catch malaria and get airlifted back home. Like, that made me so uncomfortable. And I've never been in a situation like that. Like I said, it took years for me to even realize that was sexual harassment. I will say though, like, that didn't break my whole trip. Like, it didn't define my whole experience. There were still very good things about the trip, like things that I learned that I would have not, like, that I'm very grateful for. Experiences that I had that I would have never had gotten had I not taken the opportunity to go, that I'm very grateful for. The experience overall was good. It was a learning experience is what I'll say. It was a learning experience. There was good and there was bad. But I will say that it taught me a valuable lesson to never go anywhere. I don't care if it's up the street to the fucking store. Like, don't go anywhere with anybody that you're not comfortable with, that you don't have anything in common with, and that if you don't have an understanding. I feel like that's how a lot of people get themselves into situations. And you put your friends in situations like that. Like, when you're going somewhere and you have very different intentions, like, if you're planning to go get shit-faced drunk and they're not trying to do that, and they trying to watch out for you, you look vulnerable. you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position. And I just wasn't here for that. Like, I just wasn't here for it. I struggled with, well, not necessarily struggle, but I just debated with myself about, you know, wanting to share that story. But I feel like it's important, and I'm probably not the only one who experienced that, whether it be in the same place, or whether in a different country, or just like on a vacation. But I debated with myself about sharing the story because I didn't want to make it seem like, I didn't want to put like a negative stigma or like share a negative experience about traveling to Africa and being around Africans, because at the end of the day, those are like, you know, my people, like we come from the same place. But that doesn't make what happened okay. Like, that doesn't make sexual harassment okay. And like a long time I couldn't figure out whether that was just like their culture to be that aggressive towards women. But regardless, like, you don't, it wasn't right. Like sexual harassment is not a, like, well, actually, I'm not gonna say that. Rape culture is a thing, but it's not ingrained in a certain society's culture to be okay with like being that aggressive towards women, or that invasive about women's sex lives, or, you know, making jokes about pedophilia or whatever. Like, so that concludes, that's pretty much the story about when I was sexually harassed on my study abroad in Ghana, which is in West Africa. I have a lot of other stories, a lot of other crazy stories. So if you would like to hear more, comment below. Make sure you subscribe, share, and thank you for watching. And if you had a similar experience, or like a traumatic experience traveling or study abroad, like, comment below or follow me on my social media and share your story with me. Tweet me at supermilf on Instagram, at supermilf 2_ on Instagram and Twitter. Share your stories with me. I love talking to people about traveling. I love traveling. I've been to 6 countries. Majority of them are West Indies, like Caribbean islands. But I've been to like 6 or 7 countries. I love traveling. So share your stories with me, good or bad, and make sure you subscribe and share.
Ready, set, better yet. Got this bitch rocking like we never left.